Very good afternoon, my dear students. How are you all? Hope all of you are doing good. Yes, welcome back to history class. In the previous concepts we have studied after these two new religions, the Jainism and Buddhism, the rulers who have ruled our India. In northern India, the Mauryan Empire, as well as in South India, in the North India, the Mauryan Empire. Now we will move on to the contributions made in the field of education, science and literature. Before moving on to that, just we will have a glance about why was the Gupta period considered as golden age of Indian culture. The Gupta period is described as the golden age of Indian culture because of the high level of civilization and culture of this period. Along with the revival of Hinduism, the power of creativity was unleashed in the fields of education, literature, art, architecture, science, and at the same time extending this influence beyond India's frontiers also. That is why Gupta's period is considered as the golden age of Indian culture. So you can frame as a question this one. I will send to you the pics next from the textbook. Next, now we will move on to the main concept, that is the contributions made by the Guptas in the field of education. Especially we will have to focus on Nalanda University. Before that, I would like to give you a small introduction about in what way they were getting the education. During the Gupta age, education was given utmost importance. This is evidence from the intellectual output in various fields like literature, science, mathematics, astronomy, astrology and medicine. There were many centers of learning in cities like Pataliputra, Vaishali, Ujjain, Ayodhya and Nasik. According to the inscriptions, the teachers were learned Brahmanas who were known as Acharyas and Upadhyayas, and sometimes they were also given the titles of Bhattas. These teachers were supported by the grant of villages, which were called as agraharas, given by the Gupta rulers, and charities given by generous public. Generous public means like wealthy merchants and all also used to give in the form of some charity or funds to the acharyas, that is teachers, to the teachers or upadhyayas. Then the disciples who were called as Sishyas had to learn 14 sections of science, that is comprising of 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, the Puranas, the Mimamsha, Nyaya and Dharma. Besides Vyakarana, Vyakarana means here the Ashtadhyayi, which was written by Panini in Sanskrit language, completely it describes about Sanskrit Vyakarana. Sanskrit grammar, you have been learnt about this in the Vedic age, my dear students. So this is Panini, which was written by Ashtadhyayi, a book which is composed of Sanskrit Vyakarana written by Panini. They had to learn, and the Satasahasri Samhita or the Mahabharata. These are the things the disciples or Sishyas had to learn from the teachers or Upadhyayas or Acharyas. Now we will see the important concept, Nalanda University. It was the most renowned educational institution of ancient India. It was located at Nalanda in Rajagriha in Bihar. A lot of information about the Nalanda University is given in the inscriptions and in the accounts of Huan Song. This Huan Song was a Chinese Buddhist scholar who visited India during the reign of Harshavardhana. Of course, not during the reigns of these Guptas. He had visited during the reign of Harshavardhana those who had ruled after these Guptas. After the last ruler, the Skandagupta was the last ruler of Guptas. After Skandagupta, Their men Huns had ruled over India, and then followed by Harshas also ruled. During the Harshavardhana's period, this Huan Sang, one of the Chinese Buddhist scholar, had visited, and he had studied about this Nalanda University, which had been established during the Gupta's period, which was the ancient institution. The University of Nalanda had imposing buildings. There were at least 8 colleges built by different patrons, including one by Balaputra Deva, king of Sumatra Islands, my dear. It's not a part of India, but the king of Sumatra Islands also had contributed to construct one of the building here. According to Huan Sang, the whole university area was enclosed by a brick wall, and he also mentioned that Nalanda University provided various facilities to the students for their studies. There were 3 great libraries called as Ratnasagar, then Ratnodadi and Ratnaranjak. There were more than 10,000 students and teachers. They came from Korea, Mongolia, Japan, China, Tibet, Ceylon and various parts of India also. Actually, Nalanda University, it was a postgraduate university, my dear students. The subjects of study at Nalanda University were all the 4 Vedas, logic, grammar, medicine, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya and the Buddhist works of different schools. Nalanda University was not an ordinary university. It was a postgraduate institution to which admission was very difficult. Before admission, an examination was held in which hardly 20% students passed and the rest were rejected. Only the most brilliant were admitted to the university. Nalanda continued to be a beacon of light upon 12th century AD, when it was destroyed by Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khilji, a general of Muhammad Ghori. Today, only the remains of the magnificence and glory can be seen. This is about Nalanda, famous Nalanda University, which had been found during the Guptas. So, very important contribution which was made by the Gupta rulers, Nalanda University. Mostly we will know about this by Huan Sang, who had visited Harsha one of the Chinese Buddhist scholar. He had explained about this Nalanda University. Next, we will move on to the another contributions made by the Guptas in the field of science. Many scholars like Varahamihira, then Brahmagupta, Sushruta, Charaka, Aryabhatta, such a kind of persons had contributed a lot in the field of science, which still till date we are enjoying. Let us discuss about their contributions in the field of science. During the Gupta period, the great contribution was made in many branches of sciences like astronomy, medicine, metallurgy, etc. For example, Varahamihira was a great astronomer. He proved that moon rotates around the earth and the earth rotates around the sun. The Brihat Samhita, which was written by Varahamihira, deals with astronomy, botany, natural history and physical geography. Next scholar, Brahmagupta was a mathematician and astronomer. He described the law of gravitation. Do you remember law of gravitation, which you have learned in physics, which was proved by Newton? But before some centuries before Newton itself, he described about the law of gravitation. Who described? Brahmagupta. Next, metallurgy or scientific study of metals had reached an advanced stage during the Gupta period. One of the best example which explains their scientific study, advanced scientific study, is the iron pillar which had been built next to the Qutub Minar at Mehrauli, which is in Delhi. What is the unique feature of this iron pillar? It is not rusted. That rusted is because of its high resistance power, as well as its iron. This pillar is not rusted these many years. That is a very unique feature of this iron pillar which had been built by the Guptas. which proves their scientific study, advanced scientific study, especially scientific study of metals. Next, Charaka and Sushruta were famous scholars of Ayurveda in the field of medicine. In this way, in the field of astrology, astronomy, medicine, metallurgy, many contributions they had made. Especially, very importantly, Aryabhata's contributions we will have to focus. He was a great astronomer and mathematician. Many of you know about Aryabhata and his contributions. He flourished during the reign of Gupta dynasty. His two famous books include Aryabhatiyam and Surya Siddhanta. His main achievements were the following. Very important, my dear. What were the achievements of Aryabhatta, or what were the contributions of Aryabhatta, names of his two famous books, all these things, and who were famous in a particular field during the Gupta period. In medicine, Sushruta and Charaka. In the field of astronomy, you can write Aryabhatta, Varahamihira, everybody in this way. Next, what were the contributions or achievements of Aryabhatta? He said that the earth moves round the sun. It was several centuries before the Europeans said the same thing. Before the Europeans said the same thing, that the earth moves round the sun, but it was proved long back. He said, Aryabhatta said that the earth moves round the sun. Next, he discovered the rule for finding the area of a triangle. The area, what is the rule or formula to find the area of a triangle? Next, he calculated the exact value of pi. What is the exact value of pi? 25/7. Do you remember in mathematics you have learnt the value of pi is 22/7 is equals to 3.1416. He had found. Then the credit for development of trigonometry should actually goes to him. Next, in his work Surya Siddhanta, he explained the exact causes of solar and lunar eclipses. Next, Aryabhatta was acquainted with the decimal system and use of zero. These were the contributions made by Aryabhatta during the Gupta's period in the field of science. Next, we will move on to the contributions made by the Guptas in the field of literature. The Gupta age constituted an important phase in the history of Sanskrit literature. It replaced Prakrit not only in inscriptions but also in religious and philosophical literature. Sanskrit became the language of learned and retained its supreme position for 1,000 years. Guptas made Sanskrit official language for administrative purposes. Sanskrit was used in official documents as well as in inscriptions. The classical Sanskrit literature that flowered during the Gupta period consisted of epics, poetry, drama, lyrics and prose. Both religious and secular literature existed side by side. Of course, in this field of literature, we will have to focus mainly on the works of Kalidasa, made by Kalidasa. Next, Kalidasa is regarded as the greatest poet and playwright India has ever produced. Vincent Smith has rightly compared the Gupta age with the Elizabethan period in the history of England. According to him, in India, all the lesser lights are outshone by the brilliancy of Kalidasa, as in England, all the smaller authors are overshadowed by Shakespeare. The four important poetic works of Kalidasa are Ritusamhara, Raghuvamsha, Meghaduta and Kumara Sambhava. He, being as a playwright also, he made three important dramatic works. Kalidasa, they were Vikramorvarshiyam, Malavikagnimitram and Abhignana Shakuntalam. Once again, I repeat the three dramatic works of Kalidasa, being a playwright, famous playwright, Vikramorvarshiyam, Malavikagnimitram and Abhignana Shakuntalam. His dramatic work Abhignana Shakuntalam narrates the love story of King Dushyanta and Shakuntala, whose son Bharata later became the ruler of India, and on behalf of his name Bharata, our India also is being called as Bharat. He was the son of Dushyanta, King Dushyanta and Shakuntala, In this we can Abhignana Shakuntalam, a play work, dramatic work which was written by Kalidasa. We will know about the entire story of their love story as well as the ruler of Bharata who ruled and named our India on behalf of his name, that is Bharat. The Meghaduta or the cloud messenger. Megh in Sanskrit, Megh means cloud, Dut means messenger. Meghaduta or cloud messenger is equally an outstanding lyrical poetic work. The hero of Malavikagnimitram is Chandragupta Vikramaditya. It was written in commemorate the marriage of his daughter Prabhavati with Rudrasena. All the works of Kalidasa, specifically dramatic works, have been translated into many major languages of the world, in the regional languages also. Although the subject matter of Kalidasa's works was focused on love, nature and beauty, it also nevertheless gives the reliable information about the government, society and religion of the Gupta period. Besides, they also contain traces of political history also. This is about contributions in the field of literature. Next, we will move on to the contributions made by the Guptas in the field of architecture. Especially, we will have to focus on the Vishnu temple at Deoghar. The Lord Vishnu temple, which is also called as Dashavatara temple, is one of the finest examples of Gupta architecture. It is about 125 kilometers from Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh. It is one of the earliest Hindu stone temples to survive till date. It was the first North Indian temple with a shikhara or tower. Shikhara or tower, which is at the top of the temple which is built. Although a part of it has disappeared. Now it is not appeared, it is not visible, but the shikhara or tower at this Lord Vishnu temple is not appeared. Due to some reasons it has disappeared, but still it was built with shikhara or tower, the first North Indian temple which was built. That is the Lord Vishnu temple at Deoghar. The wall, then it was completely made of stone and bricks. The temple was built at 1.5 meters high platform. 4 stairways outside the platform provide access to the temple. Its exterior is decorated with scenes from Ramayana. The entrance and pillars were adorned with countless paintings and carvings. Dedicated to Lord Vishnu, the god of preservation, Vishnu is shown asleep on the coil of the giant serpent called as Seshanaga. Then there was another outer wall around the temple also. This is about one of the earliest, finest examples of architecture, Gupta's architecture, made by as a contribution the Lord Vishnu temple at Deoghar.